Prince Harry is reportedly planning to return to the UK every few months after catching up with the King in July.
Recent reports about Prince Harry's next visit to Britain have raised a question that nobody inside the royal family can really avoid anymore. Where exactly does Harry fit when he comes back? The Duke of Sussex is expected to return to the UK in September for engagements connected to Wellchild, and reports now suggest he has been offered a room at Buckingham Palace during that visit. This comes only weeks after Harry's reunion with King Charles at Highgrove, where Charles met Meghan, Archie and Lilibet for the first time in several years. And there is an important detail here. Harry reportedly wants to spend more time in Britain over the coming year. He has been described as encouraged by the recent family reunion, and his upcoming work with Wellchild and the 2027 Invictus Games gives him reasons to return. But there is still one relationship that hasn't moved in the same direction: William. Recent reporting says there is still no contact between the brothers, with one source describing their relationship as extremely broken. So imagine what happens when Charles decides that Harry shouldn't just visit Britain. He should stay inside Buckingham Palace. That is where our story begins. It was late in the afternoon when William was asked to see his father. There was nothing unusual about the request. Charles often had private meetings with his eldest son, especially when there were questions involving the future of the monarchy. William arrived expecting another conversation about Harry's September visit. He already knew Harry was coming back. He already knew that Charles wanted to see him again. What William didn't know was that his father had made another decision. Charles was sitting behind a small desk when William entered. There was a folder in front of him. William looked at it, then at his father. "Is this about Harry?" Charles nodded. William sat down. "What now?" Charles didn't answer immediately. Instead, he opened the folder and turned it toward William. The first page was simple. Prince Harry, September visit, Buckingham Palace accommodation. William read it once, then again. He looked up. "You're offering him a room here?" Charles said yes. William leaned back. "For the whole visit?" "If he wants it." William didn't say anything. Charles continued. "I don't want him staying somewhere else when he can stay here." William looked down at the paper. "This is different." "Different how?" "It's Buckingham Palace." Charles looked at him. "It's a room." William shook his head. "No, it's not just a room." That was the first disagreement, and it would not be the last. The interesting part is that the idea itself isn't entirely coming out of nowhere. Harry's accommodation during his previous UK visit became a subject of public discussion after an earlier offer of royal accommodation was reportedly withdrawn. Harry and his family later spent part of their visit at Althorp, the Spencer family estate, while Harry continued his UK engagements. Now reports say another offer has been made for his September visit, and that changes the story. Because Harry isn't simply returning to Britain. He appears to be returning more often. According to recent reporting, he wants to come back every few months, partly because of his UK charities and his involvement with the Invictus Games ahead of the 2027 event in Birmingham. That means the question isn't really where Harry sleeps for one night. The question is whether these visits become normal again, and William understood that immediately. William picked up the folder. Does Harry know? Not yet. Does he know you're considering this? Charles paused. He knows accommodation has been discussed. William looked at him. That isn't what I asked. Charles didn't answer. William closed the folder. Dad, you can't keep making these decisions and then expecting everyone else to work out what they mean afterward. Charles frowned. I am his father. I know. And he's coming home. William looked at him. He's visiting. Charles corrected him. He's coming home. William didn't respond. That word had clearly bothered him. Home. Because for William, Harry had left. He had moved to California. He had stepped away from working royal duties. He had built a separate life, and he had spent years publicly discussing the family and the institution he had left. Now, Charles wanted to give him a room at Buckingham Palace. William wasn't sure what that meant, and he wasn't prepared to pretend that it meant nothing. Charles tried to explain his position. Harry had recently spent time with him. The meeting at Highgrove had gone better than expected. Harry had brought Meghan and the children. Archie and Lilibet had finally spent time with their grandfather after years apart. Reports said Harry left the UK feeling encouraged and energized by the reunion. Charles believed that mattered. William didn't disagree, but he had another concern. What happens after September? Charles looked at him. What do you mean? Harry stays here in September. Yes. He comes back in November. Perhaps. He stays here again. Charles didn't answer. William continued. Then January. Another pause. And eventually everyone starts treating this like a normal royal arrangement. Charles leaned forward. Is that really such a bad thing? William looked at his father. If Harry wants to be family, no. Then, if everyone starts thinking he's returning to royal life, yes. Charles shook his head. That's not what I'm offering. William said, then we need to make that very clear. That evening, Charles asked Harry to speak with him. The conversation took place privately. No advisors, no cameras, no prepared statement. Harry arrived knowing that the subject was accommodation. He just didn't know what Charles was going to propose. His father explained the offer. Harry listened, then asked, Buckingham Palace? Charles nodded. Harry smiled slightly. That's a little different, Charles said. It's convenient. Harry looked at him. Is that really why? Charles didn't answer. Harry waited. Finally, Charles said, I want you closer. Harry looked away. For several seconds, neither man said anything. Then Harry asked, closer to you? Charles nodded. Or closer to the family? Charles thought about it. Both. Harry didn't immediately accept. He asked about William. Charles said that William had concerns. Harry laughed quietly. Of course he does. Charles didn't laugh.
He wants to know what this means. Harry looked at his father. What does it mean? Charles answered, that you're welcome. Harry looked down. There was something about that answer that clearly affected him.
Because for years the argument had been about titles, security, royal duties, interviews, and everything that had happened after Harry left. But this was simpler. Charles was saying that his son was welcome in his home. Harry asked one more question. Does William agree? Charles paused. No. Harry nodded. I thought so. Charles said, that doesn't mean he wants you gone. Harry looked at him. Doesn't it? No. Then why hasn't he spoken to me? Charles didn't have an answer, and Harry knew it. The next morning, William came back to see his father. He had clearly thought about the conversation overnight. He wasn't asking Charles to cancel the offer. Instead, he wanted conditions. Let him stay. Charles looked surprised. William continued. But we need to be honest about what it is. Charles nodded. No royal duties. No public role. No suggestion that he's coming back as a working royal. Charles agreed. And no palace event built around his return. Agreed. William paused, then he added, and Harry needs to agree to that too. Charles looked at his son. You're not trying to stop him? William shook his head. No. What are you trying to do? William looked at the folder. Stop everyone from pretending this means something it doesn't? Charles asked, and what does it mean? William was quiet for a moment. Then he said, it means Dad gets to see his son. Charles looked at him. And that's enough? William didn't answer immediately. Finally, for now. But there was something William hadn't considered. Harry wasn't thinking about royal status, at least not in the way William feared. When Harry returned to Britain, his main concern was his children. He wanted Archie and Lilibet to know their grandfather. He wanted them to know Britain. And after their recent visit to Highgrove, that seemed more important to him than it had been before. Reports say the July reunion was the first time Charles had seen the children in person for more than 4 years. That changed the conversation, because William could argue about Harry. He could argue about the monarchy. He could argue about what Harry had said in the past. But it was much harder to argue against his children having a relationship with their grandfather. And William knew that. There was another meeting. This time Harry was there. William was there. Charles was between them. The atmosphere was uncomfortable from the beginning. Harry looked at William. William looked back. Neither spoke. Charles finally said, "We need to agree on what happens next." Harry asked, "Next?" Charles nodded. "Your visits." William interrupted, "Not your return." Harry looked at him. William continued, "Your visits." Harry leaned back. "I know the difference." William said, "Do you?" Harry's expression changed. Charles immediately stepped in. "William." But William didn't stop. "You want to spend more time here?" Harry said. "Yes, that's fine." "You don't sound like you mean that." William shook his head. "I mean it." Harry stared at him. "Then what is the problem?" William answered, "The problem is that nobody knows what you want." Harry laughed. "You're telling me you don't know?" "No. After all these years." William looked at him. "I know what you've said publicly." Harry's face hardened. "And you believe all of it?" William didn't answer. Harry leaned forward. "Then maybe that's the problem." Charles watched both sons. This was exactly the conversation he had hoped to avoid, but perhaps it was also the conversation they needed. Harry finally said something that changed William's attitude. "I don't want your job." William looked at him. Harry continued, "I don't want your position. I don't want your schedule. I don't want to come back and stand beside you at ceremonies." He paused. "I want my children to know their grandfather." William didn't respond. Harry continued, "And I want them to know their cousins." That was the first time William looked genuinely uncomfortable, because he knew there was truth in what Harry was saying. The distance between the brothers had extended to the next generation. Recent reporting has highlighted that William's children and Harry's children have little or no relationship with each other. William finally asked, "Is that really all you want?" Harry thought about it. "No." William waited. Harry said, "I want to stop feeling like I need permission to come home." Nobody spoke. Charles looked down. William looked toward the window. That sentence stayed with him. The meeting ended without an agreement. Harry left first. William remained with Charles. For several minutes, neither man spoke. Then Charles asked, "Do you believe him?" William answered, "I believe that he wants his children to know us." "And the rest?" William shook his head. "I don't know." Charles said, "Neither do I." William looked at his father. Then he asked, "Are you prepared for him to come back again and again?" Charles smiled slightly. "I hope he does." William sighed. "That's what I was afraid you'd say." 3 days later, William made his decision. He told Charles the palace room could be offered, but there would be no announcement, no formal welcome, no cameras, no palace ceremony. Harry could stay. He could see his father. His children could spend time with their grandfather and cousins, but there would be no suggestion that he had returned to royal duties. Charles agreed. Then William added one final condition. He wanted Harry to hear it from him, not through an advisor, not through a palace statement, personally. Harry was brought back to the room. William was waiting. He had a piece of paper in front of him. Harry sat down. William pushed it across the table. Harry read it. It wasn't a royal document. It was simply a list of what everyone had agreed. Harry could stay at Buckingham Palace during the visit. He could spend private time with Charles. His children could visit. There would be no working royal role, no public duties, no suggestion that he had returned to the institution. Harry read the final paragraph, then looked at William. "You wrote this?" "Yes." Harry nodded. "And you're okay with it?" William answered, I'm okay with you coming home." Harry looked at him. "That isn't what I asked." William paused. Then he said, "I'm not okay with everything that happened." Harry didn't move. "But I'm starting to think those are two different things." That was as close to an apology as Harry was going to get, and they both knew it. Harry eventually agreed. Charles was informed. The room at Buckingham Palace was prepared. And suddenly something that had seemed impossible only a few years earlier was happening. Harry was going to stay inside the palace again, not as a working royal, not as a returning prince, just as Charles's son. But there was still a problem. The palace knew that the moment Harry entered Buckingham Palace, people would start asking questions. Was Harry returning? Was Charles bringing him back? Had William finally forgiven him? Would Meghan return? Would Archie and Lilibet become more involved with the royal family? And perhaps the biggest question of all, could Harry ever become a working royal again? The answer, according to current reporting, remains highly doubtful. Recent coverage has emphasized that there is little expectation of Harry resuming a formal working role, even as his relationship with Charles appears to be improving. And that distinction is important, because Charles can welcome his son without restoring his royal role. William can allow Harry into the palace without pretending the past never happened, and Harry can spend more time in Britain without becoming a working royal again. That may be the only arrangement that actually has a chance of working. September finally arrived. Harry returned to Britain. This time the question of where he would stay had already been answered. Buckingham Palace. There was no grand announcement, no ceremony, no royal procession, just a car arriving at the palace. Harry stepped out. He looked toward the building for several seconds. It had been years. He walked inside. A member of staff greeted him. Harry thanked them. Then he asked, "Is my father here?" "Yes, sir." Harry nodded. He started walking. And somewhere else inside the palace, Charles was waiting. William wasn't there. That was deliberate. He had decided not to turn Harry's arrival into a test. He wasn't going to stand at the entrance. He wasn't going to make a statement. He wasn't going to create a photograph that would immediately become the headline. Instead, he let his father have the moment. Charles met Harry privately. They shook hands. Then Charles hugged his son. No cameras saw it. No palace statement described it. For once, nobody needed to explain what it meant. Later that evening, Harry was shown to his room. He placed his bag down, looked around. And for the first time in years, he wasn't staying somewhere else because he was visiting Britain. He was staying in the palace. Not because he had been restored. Not because William had forgiven everything. Not because the monarchy had changed its position. Because Charles had decided there was still room for his son. And perhaps that was the most important part. The next morning, Harry received a message. It was from William, just one line. "The children are coming over this afternoon." Harry read it twice. Then he smiled, because William hadn't said much. He hadn't apologized. He hadn't forgotten the past. He hadn't suddenly become Harry's closest friend. But he had done something else. He had opened a door. And that's where this story leaves the royal family. Charles appears to be moving closer to Harry. Harry appears increasingly interested in spending time in Britain. William remains cautious and, according to current reporting, still has a deeply damaged relationship with his brother. But something has changed. The argument is no longer simply about whether Harry should return. He already is returning. The real question is what happens each time he comes back. Will the visits become more frequent? Will his children become more familiar with the royal family? Will William eventually agree to meet him privately? Or will the old problems return the moment Harry steps too far back into palace life? Nobody knows. But Charles appears to have made his position clear. He wants his son close. And William, even if he isn't ready to forgive Harry, may finally be accepting that keeping him completely outside the family isn't going to solve anything either. So Harry now has a room at Buckingham Palace. Charles has his son closer than he has been in years. William still has his conditions. And the royal family has a new problem. Because once you give someone a key, it becomes much harder to tell them they can never come back. Thanks for watching.